Have you ever been so focused on surviving that you missed love staring you right in the face? That's exactly what happened to Marcus Bennett, a dedicated single father who couldn't see what everyone else around him could. If you enjoy stories about second chances and finding love in unexpected places, hit that like button and subscribe for more heartwarming content that will leave you believing in love again. Marcus Bennett stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, dark circles prominent under his eyes. Another sleepless night worrying about bills, his daughter's upcoming school trip, and the presentation he needed to finish for Elara Industries by tomorrow morning. At 35, his life had become an endless cycle of work, parenting, and barely making ends meet. "Dad! We're going to be late again." Emma's voice echoed through their modest two-bedroom apartment. "Coming, sweetheart." Marcus called back, straightening his slightly wrinkled tie, the same one he'd worn 3 days this week already. Emma, 12 going on 30, stood by the door with her backpack slung over one shoulder, tapping her foot impatiently. Her dark curls, so like her mother's, were pulled back in a messy ponytail. "You know Ms. Reynolds doesn't like it when parents are late for drop-off," Emma reminded him, her eyes, his eyes, narrowed in that way that made her look so much older than her years. I know. Let's go." Marcus grabbed his worn leather messenger bag, checking one last time that he had his laptop and the files he'd been working on until 2 a.m. The morning rush was their daily ritual since Karina had passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. Quick and merciless, leaving Marcus to raise their daughter alone while trying to keep his career as a financial analyst afloat. He'd taken a step down from his previous position at a prestigious firm to work at Elara Industries, a rapidly growing tech company that offered more flexible hours, a necessity for a single parent. As they hurried to the car, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text message. *, need your input on the Westfield proposal before the board meeting. My office, 9:30. *, Alexandra Stone. His boss. The CEO and founder of Elara Industries. Brilliant, intimidating, and impossibly beautiful, not that Marcus allowed himself to think about that last part. She was his employer, and more importantly, she was one of the most powerful women in the tech industry with a net worth that had recently crossed into the billions. People like her didn't notice people like him, except when they needed financial projections or market analyses. "Dad, you're doing it again," Emma said as they pulled into the school drop-off lane. "Doing what?" "That thing where you get all weird and quiet when Ms. Stone texts you." Marcus felt heat rise to his cheeks. "I don't get weird. I'm just thinking about work." Emma rolled her eyes with all the dramatic flair of pre-adolescence. "Whatever you say. She likes you, you know." "Emma, that's ridiculous." "Yeah, that's what you always say." She leaned over and kissed his cheek. "Love you, Dad. Even if you're completely clueless." Before he could respond, she was out of the car, joining the stream of students heading into the building. Marcus watched her go, wondering when his little girl had become so perceptive, and so wrong. Alexandra Stone didn't like him. She valued his work, maybe, but that was all. The Elara Industries headquarters was a marvel of modern architecture, all glass and sustainable materials, with an open floor plan designed to foster collaboration and innovation. As Marcus hurried through the lobby, nodding to the security guard who knew him by name, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride working for a company that was changing the world with its clean energy solutions. "Morning, Marcus," called Priya from the reception desk. "Better hurry, the queen bee is in rare form today." "That bad?" Marcus asked, pressing the elevator button repeatedly as if that would make it arrive faster. "3 executives have already left her office looking like they've seen a ghost," Priya confirmed with a sympathetic smile. "But don't worry, you're her favorite." "I'm not her." The elevator doors opened, saving Marcus from having to finish his protest. He stepped inside, straightening his tie again and running a hand through his slightly disheveled brown hair. Alexandra's office occupied the entire top floor of the building. Her assistant, Theo, sat at a desk outside the glass-walled sanctuary where Alexandra conducted the business of her empire. "She's waiting for you," Theo said without looking up from his computer. "And fair warning, she's had 4 espressos already." "Thanks for the heads up," Marcus muttered, taking a deep breath before knocking on the glass door. "Come in, Bennett," Alexandra's voice commanded, clear and authoritative even through the thick glass. Marcus pushed open the door and stepped into Alexandra Stone's domain. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, but they paled in comparison to the woman standing before them. At 38, Alexandra was a force of nature, tall and elegant in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, her auburn hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders. She turned to face him, green eyes sharp and focused. "You're late," she said, though a quick glance at his watch told Marcus he was actually 2 minutes early. "Sorry," he said automatically, a habit from years of apologizing for things that weren't his fault. Alexandra's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "The Westfield proposal. What do you think?" Marcus set his bag down and pulled out his laptop. "I think we're undervaluing our contribution. If we adjust the equity stake to reflect the proprietary technology we're bringing to the table, we stand to gain an additional 30 million over the first 5 years. Alexandra raised an eyebrow, the ghost of a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Show me." For the next hour, they worked side by side, Marcus explaining his projections while Alexandra asked pointed questions that pushed him to defend his analysis. It was exhilarating working with her, challenging in a way that made him feel alive, respected for his mind rather than pitted for his circumstances. "This is good work, Bennett," Alexandra said finally, leaning back in her chair. "Really good." "Thank you," Marcus replied, trying not to show how much her approval meant to him. "Are you coming to the charity gala on Saturday?" she asked suddenly, the question catching him off guard. The annual Elara Foundation Gala was the social event of the season, raising millions for educational initiatives in underserved communities. All senior staff were expected to attend, but Marcus had already arranged to have Emma stay with his mother-in-law that night. "Yes, I'll be there," he confirmed, closing his laptop. Alexandra nodded, seeming pleased. "Good. I'd like you to sit at my table." Marcus blinked in surprise. The CEO's table was usually reserved for board members and major investors. "Are you sure?" "I'm just a brilliant financial analyst whose insights have helped this company grow 30% year over year," Alexandra interrupted. "Yes, I'm sure." "Then, thank you. I'd be honored." Was it his imagination, or did a faint blush color Alexandra's cheeks? Before he could decide, she was all business again. "The board meeting starts in 20 minutes. I need you there to present these findings." "Of course," Marcus agreed, gathering his things. As he turned to leave, Alexandra called his name. "Marcus?" He turned back, startled by her use of his first name. "Yes?" For a moment, something vulnerable flickered in her eyes. "You've been working late a lot. Is everything okay?" The question was so unexpected that Marcus found himself answering honestly. "Just trying to keep all the plates spinning. Single parenting, you know?" Alexandra nodded slowly. "If you ever need more flexibility with your schedule, just ask. Your work is too valuable to lose because we're not accommodating your life outside these walls." Thank you," Marcus said, genuinely touched by her consideration. As he left her office, he couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between them, though he couldn't quite put his finger on what it was. The week passed in a blur of meetings, school pickups, and late nights working on the Westfield proposal. By Saturday evening, Marcus was exhausted but determined to make a good impression at the gala. He'd splurged on a new suit, dark blue, tailored to fit his athletic frame, a necessary expense if he was going to be seated at the CEO's table. "You look handsome, Dad," Emma said as she helped him with his cufflinks, a gift from Karina on their last anniversary together. Thanks, sweetheart. Are you sure you're okay staying with Grandma tonight? Emma rolled her eyes. Yes, for the millionth time. Besides, Grandma lets me eat ice cream for dinner. Marcus laughed, pulling her into a hug. Just don't tell her I know that. After dropping Emma off, Marcus arrived at the Grand Plaza Hotel where the gala was being held. The ballroom was transformed into an elegant wonderland of twinkling lights and floral arrangements, with Elara's signature blue and silver color scheme evident throughout. Marcus. Over here. Priya waved from near the entrance, stunning in a gold sequined gown. You clean up nice, Bennett. Not so bad yourself, he replied with a smile. Have you seen Miss Stone? Priya's eyes twinkled mischievously. Not yet, but word is she's wearing something special tonight. And she's been asking if you've arrived every 5 minutes. She has not, Marcus protested, though he couldn't help the flutter of something in his chest at the thought. Believe what you want, Priya sang, linking her arm through his. Come on, let's get a drink before the speeches start. They made their way to the bar, where several of their colleagues had gathered. Marcus was just accepting a glass of whiskey when a hush fell over the crowd near the entrance. He turned to look, and his breath caught in his throat. Alexandra Stone had arrived, and she was a vision in a midnight blue gown that seemed to capture the light and reflect it back like stars. Her hair was swept up in an elegant updo, revealing the graceful line of her neck and the delicate diamond earrings that caught the light with every movement. Close your mouth, Bennett, Priya whispered, nudging him with her elbow. You're staring. Marcus snapped his jaw shut, embarrassed to realize she was right. But it wasn't just Alexandra's beauty that had struck him speechless, it was the way her eyes scanned the room until they found his, the way her face lit up with a genuine smile when their gazes met. She made her way through the crowd, stopping to greet board members and donors, but her path was clearly leading toward him. Marcus took a large sip of his whiskey, needing the liquid courage. Mr. Bennett, Alexandra said when she finally reached him, her voice warm in a way he rarely heard at the office. I'm glad you could make it. Ms. Stone, he replied, suddenly very aware of how close she was standing. You look incredible. A soft blush colored her cheeks. Thank you. And please, tonight it's Alexandra. Then I'm Marcus, he offered, feeling oddly bold. Marcus, she repeated, as if testing how his name felt on her lips. Would you mind accompanying me to greet some of our major donors? Your understanding of the financial impact of their contributions would be invaluable. Of course, he agreed, setting down his glass and offering her his arm without thinking. Alexandra hesitated for just a moment before slipping her hand into the crook of his elbow. The contact, even through the layers of his suit jacket, sent a jolt of electricity through him. For the next hour, they moved through the crowd together, Alexandra introducing him to Silicon Valley titans and old money philanthropists with equal ease. Marcus was surprised to find himself comfortable in these circles, able to speak knowledgeably about Elara's initiatives and their financial implications. You're a natural at this, Alexandra murmured as they moved away from a particularly impressed venture capitalist. Why haven't I had you at these events before? Marcus shrugged. Never been invited to your table before. An oversight I deeply regret, she replied, her eyes holding his for a beat longer than necessary. Dinner was announced, and they made their way to the head table. Marcus found himself seated directly to Alexandra's right, a position of honor that didn't go unnoticed by the other executives present. Throughout the meal, he was acutely aware of her presence, the subtle scent of her perfume, the way her shoulder occasionally brushed against his when she leaned in to speak to him, the musical quality of her laugh when he made a dry observation about one of the board members. After dinner came the speeches, with Alexandra delivering a powerful address about Elara's commitment to educational equity and environmental sustainability. Marcus watched her command the room, her passion evident in every word, and felt a swell of admiration that went far beyond professional respect. When the formal portion of the evening concluded and the band began to play, Alexandra turned to him with an unexpected vulnerability in her eyes. Would you dance with me, Marcus? The question hung between them, weighted with possibilities. Marcus knew he should make an excuse, maintain the professional boundary between them, but found himself standing and offering his hand instead. I'd love to, he said simply. The dance floor was crowded, but people seemed to naturally make space for Alexandra as she led Marcus to the center. When she turned to face him, placing one hand on his shoulder while the other clasped his, Marcus felt as though the rest of the room had disappeared. I should warn you, he said as they began to move to the music, I haven't danced since my wedding. A shadow passed over Alexandra's face. Your wife. Emma's mother. You don't talk about her much. Karina, Marcus said softly. She died 3 years ago. Cancer. Alexandra's hand tightened on his shoulder. I'm so sorry, Marcus. I knew you were a widower, but I didn't know the details. It's okay, he assured her. Emma and I are finding our way. They danced in silence for a moment, the music wrapping around them like a cocoon. Emma seems like an amazing young woman, Alexandra said finally. From what you've told me about her. Marcus smiled, his face lighting up the way it always did when he spoke about his daughter. She is smart, stubborn, compassionate. So much like her mother, but with this fierce independence that's all her own. She must take after her father too, Alexandra observed, her eyes soft as they studied his face. The song ended, but neither of them moved to break apart. As the next melody began, slower and more intimate, Alexandra stepped slightly closer. Is this okay? She asked, a rare uncertainty in her voice. Marcus nodded, not trusting himself to speak. They continued to dance, their bodies moving in perfect harmony despite his earlier disclaimer about his rusty skills. It felt right, being here with her, in a way that both thrilled and terrified him. Marcus, Alexandra said after a while, her voice barely audible above the music, there's something I've been wanting to tell you. His heart hammered in his chest. What is it? But before she could answer, they were interrupted by Theo, Alexandra's assistant, looking apologetic but insistent. I'm sorry, Miss Stone, but Senator Williams is leaving and specifically asked to speak with you before he goes. Alexandra closed her eyes briefly, frustration evident in the set of her shoulders. Of course. I'll be right there. She turned back to Marcus. I'm sorry. Duty calls. I understand, he said, trying to hide his disappointment. Save me another dance, she asked, her hand lingering on his arm. I'll be here, he promised. As he watched her walk away, Marcus tried to make sense of what had just happened, what had almost happened. Was it possible that Emma and Priya were right? Could Alexandra Stone, billionaire CEO and one of the most sought-after women in the country, actually be interested in him? The thought seemed absurd. And yet, the way she had looked at him, the way she had felt in his arms. Marcus made his way to the bar, needing a moment to collect his thoughts. He was nursing another whiskey when a familiar voice spoke beside him. She likes you, you know. He turned to find Theo standing there, looking amused. What? Alexandra. She likes you. A lot. Theo accepted a glass of champagne from the bartender. And believe me, I would know. I've been her assistant for 5 years, and I've never seen her like this with anyone. Marcus shook his head. You're mistaken. We work together. She respects my professional opinion, that's all. Theo laughed. Is that why she changed her dress 3 times before coming tonight? Or why she's had me rearrange her schedule twice this month so she could accidentally run into you in the break room? She what? Marcus stared at him in disbelief. Look, Theo said, his expression turning serious, Alexandra Stone is the most brilliant, driven person I've ever met. She's also incredibly guarded. The fact that